Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Manga chapter review. This one's going to be for chapter 14, which is called Teamwork. And yeah, I think this was a good chapter. I just don't think it was particularly satisfying. And I think it comes back to what I've been talking about the past couple of chapter reviews of just the monthly format isn't working so well. It's not awful, just really bad. But it definitely feels like it's not really 4 chapters worth of content. That if this was weekly, we'd be a little bit further along than we are getting these 45-page chapters, every 4+ weeks. It ends up being a month and almost 5 weeks basically. And it definitely doesn't feel like that much in terms of content, because all this chapter is just one fight. And I think it's a good fight. It's just I keep trying to break it down in terms of weekly chapters, and I can't help but feel like 3 at the absolute most. There's no way this fight would have went on for more than that many chapters if they were just doing normal kind of weekly chapters. So I think there's definitely that frustration with this manga, but I think there's also a lot of people out there who are acknowledging that it is good. The pacing is just quite slow. We haven't properly, I think, got into it yet, and I think in terms of this chapter, I think the only weakness is just that it's so fighting focused that there's no plot whatsoever in it. That you almost, because it's been so long since the last chapter and it's going to be long enough to the next chapter, you almost forget who Shoujojo is, and then by the time we get to the next chapter, it's going to be like, okay, can we move on? Can we actually get going here? Because I think Boruto is pretty impressive in this fight, and then Shoujojo demonstrates some pretty cool jutsu as well. Plus, Tento gets his big moment, and they seem to set it up in the last page of the chapter that Shoujojo is going to reveal some sort of big secret to Boruto that's going to reveal something going forward, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. Of course, Tento, again, is the daimyo's son for the, Land of Fire, so maybe they'll bring that back into play. There's probably going to be some sort of reveal, like there is a bigger villain, that Shoujojo maybe isn't the overall leader of the Mujina or whatever it's called. I can see something like that happening, but it's, I like what's going on here, and I think when the anime eventually gets to covering this content, I think this fight's going to be really cool. I think the artist, showcases again that he does motion and the idea of movement and fights quite well. The idea of it's really clear about what's happening. Boruto jumps up, he's using shadow clones. They demonstrate Shoujojo, even though he's this huge guy, is also quite agile himself. And just the kind of detail in Shoujojo's design as well, I think, comes across quite nicely. But I think the problem is when he really comes to analysis, it is kind of just okay, Boruto uses shadow clones to take out the kind of grunt ninja who are with Shoujojo. And then it's Shoujojo versus Boruto one-on-one. And we get some really pretty cool attacks from Boruto in terms of okay, Boruto can actually use the Rasengan properly. I don't think we've been fully aware that that's been the case. That we know he's been training at it and that he more or less has it, but I don't think we'd quite seen him just do a full power Rasengan without it being small like it was before, or just using the disappearing Rasengan. So it's nice to note that he's just kind of, in the little while since the kind of movie has kind of more or less mastered the normal Rasengan, that a further thing that kind of demonstrates that he is different than Naruto, and that it obviously we saw him in the Boruto movie learn the Rasengan, but that he has it now, and it's so early in the series. And he uses Uchiha style shuriken jutsu with lightning on it, which was a really kind of impressive move as well. And then I think Shoujojo's key technique here is this kind of wind style, what's it called? Wind something's guard or something like that. I'm not sure about the exact name of the jutsu. I'll have to wait to see what the official translation actually says on that. But the basic gist of it is that it's this wind style jutsu that not only blocks an attack but also reflects it. And it's basically this thing where it's one of the only jutsus that Shoujojo has mastered, because it's one of the only ones he needs. Once he is aware of what attack is being used on him, he can just return the attack to an opponent. So it's this kind of almost, invincible technique, as he explains, that he really only has a couple of jutsu that he can use, and it's like, okay, his eating someone's brain to, corpse clone technique, this wind style technique, and then just basic ninja skills, and that's all he needs to kind of demonstrate how powerful he is. And the dialogue that we get here is interesting enough in terms of Boruto constantly saying, "You're not a ninja. Should I even call you a ninja based on like how you're acting and what you are?" Which is interesting coming from Boruto, who's obviously at times doubted himself, kind of what it is to be a ninja. Does he want to be a ninja? And then by the end of the chapter, Boruto does get kind of captured after trying to do a kind of impressive shadow clone move, and it's Tento stepping up, throwing the shuriken at Shoujojo and distracting him, that frees Boruto from him and gives Boruto the chance to hit Shoujojo in the back with a Rasengan and getting what appears to be the victory, but the fight perhaps isn't over just yet. But the big kind of core of what they do after that is just that Tento, despite having basically no ninja training, is more of a ninja than you are, because of the bravery he showed stepping up when he knew he was completely outmatched, but to save a friend and all that stuff. That his ideals more represent what a ninja actually is, as opposed to Tento, obviously, Shoujojo doing what he's doing for kind of evil purposes. So, nice enough stuff. And I think, as I said, the animation, I think once they do that for the anime, if they ever cover this, is going to be really cool for this fight. And I think Shoujojo in the anime, with the motion of how he opens his mouth and maybe some music that they'll give him, he's going to, I think, come across very threatening once they kind of give him some of that stuff that comes with the anime, the music, the good voice. A little flat in the manga, I think, even though I think the corpse clone technique and how it works and how you have to do it is a very creepy technique. It's just, a little bit diminished here in the manga, not having all that extra stuff to go with it. And then I think just the overall feeling of just like, okay, we had the fight, but the story hasn't necessarily progressed a lot from last chapter to this chapter. And we are definitely waiting for whatever is said next. Whatever happens next is going to be the bigger thing in the series. So, overall, good but basic chapter, and continued doubts just about the whole monthly chapter thing. I'm not sure how I feel about it still. I like the content we're getting. I enjoy this Boruto manga, and especially where it's gone since the movie. I just think the pacing's been a bit slow, and most of that has been down to the amount of wait time between chapters. Whereas I think if this was weekly, I think most people would be a lot more forgiving of just, okay, they're clearly starting off small, whereas I think people are expecting more or less, 4 or 5 chapters worth of content in one of these, where it feels like it's maybe 2, maybe 3 chapters worth of content is what we're given, and it's not working as well as it should be. So I would hope that maybe at some point they change the scheduling on this and give it to us more regularly. Even if it means that like we're still basically getting the same number of pages, I'd kind of prefer just to get the content a little quicker rather than just a chunk, every month. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this chapter, as well as what of that general topic of just how do you feel the monthly format is working for Boruto? Do you think they should change it, or do you think it's actually working okay? And then what were your thoughts on one of these first like new extended fights in the manga as well? So definitely leave comments below. But that has been the video for today. Thanks for watching, and bye.